When a satellite system that controls the weather starts acting weird, a scientist must race against time to prevent a cataclysm from hitting the Earth. Today on Cinema Recap, I'll show you Geostorm, a Netflix movie. The film begins with the explanation that humanity was warned about climate change, but nobody listened. So temperatures increased, ocean patterns changed, and the polar ice caps melted, all of which they called extreme weather. They did not yet know what extreme weather meant. In the year 2019, there were many weather catastrophes. Events such as hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and droughts unleashed a wave of destruction on the planet. In Madrid, a heat wave killed 2 million people in just one day, so when all the countries talked about it, they realized that none of them could face this wave of disasters on their own. The world decided to unite and fight, so scientists from all over the world gathered, led by the United States and China, acting not in the interests of their individual countries, but on behalf of humanity itself. Scientists created a technology with a network of thousands of satellites to neutralize the basic elements of the climate: temperature, pressure, and humidity, all monitored by the International Space Station. These satellites easily undo the clouds of a storm so that humanity can take a break. But something important and dangerous is realized. They could also be used to create catastrophes, since they interact with the base elements. Then we meet a man named Jake, who is the person who directed the construction of the satellites, and he's going to a meeting with justices from the United States. And we see that these people want to control the technology so they can control the weather. The men threaten Jake with removing him from command if he does not follow their orders, and also tell him that he will have to fire people from his team since they will be sending new personnel. Later, we meet Max, Jake's younger brother, who warns his brother not to mess with those men as they will ruin his project. Max confesses that he was ordered to command the International Space Station and that he has a strict order to leave Jake out of the project, so he tells him that he's sorry since they were very clear orders. 3 years pass and an army arrives in the desert in Afghanistan where it is very hot, but when they reach their destination they realize that there is ice in the middle of the sand. They enter a village and notice that it's all frozen, including people. Elsewhere, the personnel involved in climate control and the president meet. They analyze the problem, concluding that the satellites failed, so they will have to find a highly trained person to go up and repair them. The president explains that in 2 weeks, per the contract, they will have to cede command of the satellites to China, so he does not want to deliver a damaged project, and therefore he asks them to solve it quickly. They leave the meeting, and a man from the committee tells Max that his brother Jake is the best person for this mission, but this does not please Max since his brother has already been fired. In space, some workers isolate the satellite that monitored the Afghan desert. One of them connected a device to secretly download information. Someone wanted him dead, though, shortly after hatches supposedly fail, and the man is ejected into space. A few days later, Max goes to Jake's house, where he sees the little daughter of his older brother, named Hannah. Then the brothers chat for a while. Max explains to him the situation regarding the failure of the satellites, so he asks for his support to find the solution, but Jake refuses since he was kicked out of his own project. Max tells him that more people will die if he refuses, so Jake reluctantly agrees to join again. On the other side of the world, in Hong Kong, a man named Chang observes the catastrophe that happened in Afghanistan. He goes out to buy some things in Hong Kong, but notices that the ground starts to burn, so he quickly gets in his car to escape the city. Hong Kong is devastated by nature. Entire buildings fall one by one, while Chang manages to get out along with several people who watch how their beautiful city burns in flames. A few days later, Jake gets on the ship back to the space station. He's very happy since working in space again gives him a lot of hope. Later, they introduce him to his new work team. They are Adisa from Structural Engineering, Duncan Taylor from Systems, Hernandez from Robotics, and Doucette from Communication and Security. Meanwhile, on Earth, Cheng calls Max to tell him what happened, but also that someone from the United States has blocked his access to the Hong Kong satellites. So he warns him that if the satellites fail, they could create great destruction. Max does not fully understand, so Cheng explains that if the satellites fail, they could cause the so-called Geostorm, a wave of multiple natural disasters which will group together and make a great storm of colossal levels. Cheng tries to find the flaw, but some guys come and almost catch him, although they only take the information on his desk. At the same time, as Jake knows the satellites very well, he quickly puts the staff to work to find the failure. Max and Jake communicate, and Max lets his brother know that someone has blocked their access to the satellites, so they both agree to hurry up before worse things happen. The Hong Kong satellite arrives at the main station to be analyzed, but a robotic arm that supports the device begins to fail and ends up destroying it. Therefore, they will not be able to extract the information they need. Cheng arrives at DC and calls Max to explain what's going on, since he comments that he has discovered everything. Meanwhile, Jake and the station chief find out that the glitches and murder of the man at the station were staged. Someone is sabotaging everything. Max and his girlfriend try to meet with Cheng, but he gets killed. Before he dies, he tells Max the words Zeus Project several times. Then Jake, in a secret message, lets Max know that there's someone very high up who is involved in everything and trying to ruin the space station. So Max begins to investigate about the Zeus Project, trying to relate everything. Meanwhile, Jake and the boss discover that the man that was murdered was not a spy or a traitor, but that he had discovered the flaws and made a copy of the files in his locker before he died. With that man's information, they discover a virus has been implanted in the entire satellite system, and it only appears that everything is failing, so that no one discovers the virus. In the meantime, Max discovers that the Zeus Project is a series of simulations to cause disaster on Earth on purpose, using the satellites. Later, both brothers communicate safely thanks to a hacker. Jake tells him that he believes that the president is behind everything, since to get rid of the virus, they need some codes that he has. Max can't believe that his precious president is behind this atrocity, so he says goodbye to Jake, telling him to watch from above while he will watch from below. Max plans to steal the codes from the president, and taking advantage of the fact that his girlfriend is part of his personal security detail. They plan how to do it. Aboard the station, 200 satellites are seen to fail, which causes multiple catastrophes on Earth. For example, in Tokyo, hail of unusual size destroys the city. On a beach in Brazil, the water freezes and a wave of icy wind freezes everything in its path, including people. So Jake and his team send another satellite to collide with the current one, which should stop these events. However, in Brazil, the wave continues to freeze everything, so birds fall dead in seconds, and a plane passing by at the same time also falls, frozen. Then they manage to destroy the satellite, so Brazil will be safe. Jake gives the order to destroy the other faulty satellites, but the system is interrupted by two things. The first is that in an hour and a half, a geostorm will appear, in which all humanity could die. The second is that the virus initiated the main station's self-destruct. Jake finds out that Duncan implanted the virus, so he hits him a couple of times, finding out that he did it for money, and after a few struggles, he accidentally gets him ejected into space. Max tells his boss, Deckham, about what is happening, so he tells him the codes are biometric, which are from the president himself, and therefore they'll need his fingerprints and retina. Deckham tells Max that they will have to talk to the president to make him come to reason, so he takes him to a room where the president will arrive. But Deckham betrays him and starts shooting. Max runs away to hide from Deckham since he is the one behind all the attacks, so he talks to his girlfriend, telling her to get the president out of there, since the next target of the satellites is a place where he'll be giving a lecture. Max's girlfriend creates a distraction to get the president out the back door, where Max is waiting for them in a car. They leave the place before Deckham finds them. Elsewhere, the virus in the satellites creates tornadoes in India, and also increases the temperature in Russia, melting tons of ice in minutes. Max explains to the president what is happening, and he believes him since the catastrophe came and destroyed the area where he was a mere moment ago. Deckham's men continue shooting at them, trying to kill them all, but Max's girlfriend makes some fancy maneuvers and shoots at the assailants, getting rid of them. However, a man of Deckham's fires a rocket launcher and destroys the car the president was in, although it was actually a trick by the president to unmask Deckham. They arrest Deckham. While in Dubai, the satellites create a big wave of water that hits the whole country. Max takes the president to input his biometric codes, although they find out that the codes will stop the satellites, but will not stop the self-destruct of the main space station, where Jake is, so the brothers get sentimental. Jake gets the president's codes and goes on to stop the Geostorm, but he runs into several problems since the ship is heavily damaged and losing gravity. He manages to insert the codes at the last second and save humanity, and then comes up with an idea to escape using one of the satellites. The station explodes and everyone on Earth gets very sad since the two heroes who stayed in the station have died. But shortly after, they realize that the satellite on which they improvised an escape was saved. So another ship, manned by Hernandez, saves them. Everyone celebrates while the catastrophes stop, and Jake lands on Earth. Then the president congratulates both brothers for saving humanity. 6 months pass. Max, Jake, and Hannah are calmer, while the main space station is being rebuilt. But this time with more security, and Jake will be working on it. The end. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe to continue receiving recaps of the best sci-fi and action series and movies. Thanks for watching.